All right. Welcome to the Smart Couple Podcast. I'm your host, Jayson Gaddis. We're going to be exploring the deepest, darkest, most painful, and most blissful, and of course, joyful terrain of marriage and long-term partnership. I'm going to give you an ongoing barrage of relationship hacks, tools, and tricks to help you have a successful, strong marriage well after the honeymoon period is over. Okay, but wait, before we begin, here's a quick personal story, because I like personal stories. And it's important that you know just a glimpse of my experience in relationship. I was that guy who loved the chase. I never thought I'd get married, nor have kids. I swore up and down I would never be married or have kids. I was like, no fucking way. And I said to that publicly to a lot of people. I was convinced. The chase was too much fun for me, right? But then as soon as I would hook the girl, the fun would fade. Eventually, I'd hit the same old spot. She'd want more, I'd want less, and we'd start struggling a little bit. And because I wanted a fantasy and I wanted it to just feel good all the time, I'd make her wrong, essentially, and start finding faults with her and judging her quietly in my mind. And I would find a way out and hurt yet another great woman and miss out, of course, I would miss out on another great opportunity. Life is like this, though, right? We turn our backs sometimes on the challenges. That's what I did. I would turn away from stuff when it got hard because I was uncomfortable. And I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any self-awareness, or very little. And I just had what I had growing up, right? That's just what I used. That's what I deployed. When things got tough, I ran away. That was my style. Some people fight and escalate. That might be you. I ran away. But after my seventh failure and seventh running away, I hit a wall and I said, all right, no more. I was done. I broke up with this woman in the parking lot at Wild Oats, another great woman, and I had that sinking, terrible feeling, where you're trying to soften the blow and not hurt someone's feelings. And I was getting pretty good at this, but it was still terrible and felt awful. And there was no way around it. But I would kind of try to hint at it for weeks and months leading up. And she kind of knew it was coming, right? But she didn't have the empowerment to leave me and put up with, not put up with me anymore. She was kind of insecure and wanted to be with me. So she was willing to hang in with a guy like me, avoiding, running away, etc. So I'm trying to soften the blow and say it in the most polite way I can, and eventually it comes out. And I'm sure I said something like, I think it's best if we break up, and maybe that, I'm just not ready, and just trying to soften the blow a little bit. And somewhere in that 5 or 10 minutes, time started slowing down, and I just really got that I didn't want to do this anymore. Not that I didn't want to break up with someone anymore. I didn't want to have yet another failure in relationship. I was tired. And I got somewhere in that 5 minutes or so, I got that I was the one common denominator in all of my relationship failures. And when I saw that, I said, okay, I can do something about that. So I had a weird kind of moment of joy, actually, in that car that came through because I got something about myself. And that's when I set to work. It was time to get this part of my life handled, right? So I did. I went and got it handled. It took me many, many years. The info I scoured was just okay, and I did lots of group therapy, individual therapy, coaching, workshops, books, seminars, you name it. I did it. But at a certain point, early on, right, if you're not working on it, it's just too late. You can't get them back. You can't get him or her back. They're gone. If you blow it, they move on. If they're smart, they move on. So another lost opportunity, another heartbreak. So I'm wanting to save you lots of time, money, and energy, and this podcast is going to do that, okay? You'll get a weekly dose. I believe it's going to serve you tremendously. And when things get hard, this can be one anchor point for you, a little lifeline. And if you, as we go here, you can go back and listen to a bunch of episodes that appeal to you based on what you're going through. And since this is the first episode, this is what you got. So I'm going to be telling you about more traumas and triumphs from my own life. Like, how about the 10th time I got rejected by another girl in high school, right? That didn't like me back. Or the time I chased a woman across the country only to find out she had a boyfriend. And the psychology behind that, right? Like, why was I doing that? Why do we chase unavailable people? Or how about the time my wife and I broke up for the first time and the massive aha I got from that? And then there's the second time. And on and on. I'm also going to be interviewing a select group of relationship wizards and experts who get the real deal about relationship and long-term intimacy. People really unafraid to discuss the deep, dark places, the sexy, uncomfortable places, the juicy, delicious places, the light side and the dark side. All of it, right? We're going, no corner of this conversation will be unexplored. We're going there. In fact, we will even talk about using plant medicines, MDMA, and other substances that may be legal or illegal to get at some of our relational blocks and challenges and to promote greater intimacy and connection with our partner. And so we're going there. And in addition to that, we will be having episodes called Cock Talk that are primarily geared towards men and are about men and conversations with men, although some women, of course, will come on and talk about men's issues as well. So Cock Talk will include everything from exploring erectile dysfunction and its impact on a marriage and how to overcome it. And we'll talk about orgasms and how to pleasure your partner. And we'll talk about the shame that men are buried in their marriages and relationships that around specifically sexuality and their bodies and, you know, how they subordinate to fantasies of who they think they should be. So I think the episodes around MDMA, say, or Cock Talk are going to be very enlightening because we're going to push the limits on what's allowed in these conversations. And we'll take conversations that are normally hidden in the therapy office or the bedroom, and we're going to bring them out in the open. And because that's a way that we can begin to work with shame and embarrassment and humiliation and just be real about like what's actually going on, that it's normal to struggle in these areas, and we want to find answers and solutions. Of course, it goes without saying that I will be sharing my personal trials and tribulations with both illicit substances as it pertains to intimacy and relationship, as well as the Cock Talk episodes. I'm going to be revealing a lot of my own personal challenges that I've struggled with in the past and might be still struggling with. So you're going to want to tune into those episodes as well. And finally, I'm going to interview couples who've been through the fire and can come out the other side stronger, more intact, more trusting, more bold, and even holding a sense of humor about the whole ride of marriage or long-term partnership. Right? So that's a little slice. Why is this podcast different? Well, it's not about fantasies and fairy tales, which is what most marriage advice shit out there you buy is about. It's how to have a happy marriage and how to just have great sex all the time. And it's all crap. And if you're in your smaller self, you're going to buy that kind of garbage and believe it and then never be able to do it. And then you're going to frustrate over and over. And you're going to beat yourself up or blame someone for why you're not getting the results. So here we're going to talk about real relationships, real marriages, and what it's really like, and what's really possible. And what's possible isn't a fantasy. It's not the white picket fence where everyone's happy and feels great and the kids are all raised and go off to college and everybody gets A's and we make a ton of money and everybody feels great. That is a load of crap, right? So I love the movie American Beauty, because there's a scene, many scenes in that movie, they're so intense, right? I mean, that's life. If you look down the street in your neighborhood, most people are putting on happy faces, right? But behind closed doors, there's a whole different monster going on. The vast majority of the people that are married are miserable. And the stats say 50% of people that get married get divorced. So equals 50% of marriage is failure, right? I think it's way higher than that. I think we're talking more like businesses, like 80 to 90% of most marriages are failures. And I define failure in a marriage as people who are not working it, and they don't grow and deepen over time. They get stuck, stagnant, complacent, and afraid. And they become roommates and, jail buddies tied to a chain. I mean, ball and chain, right? That term comes from somewhere. Because that's how people feel. They feel trapped and they feel like they're in a cage, but they feel like they can't get out. Because if they have a divorce, it's shameful and bad and wrong, and now you're judged by society and everyone else, and you got to pay half your income to the other person, or split things, and the kids get impacted and hurt. And it's complicated here. That's why we're going to all of those places. But I am here to tell you, most marriages are failures. And it's not people's fault. It's not your fault if that's you. Okay, because you got very little guidance in your life about what's truly possible here. You got very little tools. You got very little training, right? We don't learn how to do long-term relationship in school. We don't even learn in our families. We simply learn through everyday experience. And that becomes the template that's in our nervous system and that's in our bones that we then repeat in our lives. And that sucks. It's supposed to suck. It's supposed to wake you up out of the fog and get you out of the trance. That is helpful to you. So if your marriage sucks, that's good news. That means there's a feedback loop going on. And if you're smart, which you are if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to pay attention to where it sucks and go do something about it. And here's the program with this podcast. You're going to be the one that does something about it. In your mind, heart, and body, you're going to deal. You're not going to blame your partner and ask them to change and try to fix them. You've tried. Look where it's gotten you. You've already tried that, okay? So we're looking for smart, intelligent resources. That's what I'm going to bring you. Lots of intelligent resources here. All right. I like talking to smart people because they're smart enough to know there's another way, and they're tenacious enough to figure it out. I was pretty dense. In some areas of my life still I'm pretty dense. And the place of density, most density for me, was relationship in my 20s. So I finally was in enough pain to do something about it. This is just how we operate as human beings. Okay, so pain will be your entry point sometimes, and that's welcome here, because pain is just feedback to get you to get in integrity with yourself in your life. And when you're in integrity, the pain you experience is different. You're more of a Jedi at that point, an Aikido master, taking curveballs as they come and welcoming them, rather than complaining and whining about them. Okay, really, I'm talking to long-term committed relationship people. Okay, that's who this podcast is for. It's not really for the people that are just dating or want to fling or whatever, although the content is going to benefit just about anybody. Parents, business people, children, teenagers, people that are dating and looking to just, get laid. There's stuff in here that's going to really benefit you. And primarily I'm talking to married and long-term partnership people that want to go the distance. Because look, how do you really go the distance with someone in years into this? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and continue to be inspired and enthusiastic and actually enjoy the relationship and grow even closer and go even deeper in yourself and learn even more about you. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, so if you want to win in relationship and partnership, this podcast is going to show you how. What does winning mean, though? Okay, we got to define that. Well, one sentence. You're completely true to yourself and your partner has your back. That's winning. You don't sacrifice who you are. You don't trade your authenticity for connection. You get to be you and stay connected to your partner. How would that be? Okay, we're going to do that. Like a thriving business that grows its income and reach over the long haul, right? You and your partner learn to build a foundation that fuels a very sexy, vibrant, dynamic partnership over time. That through all the storms and waves and ups and downs, you continue to grow bigger and broader and more whole and more awesome. Okay, because you are a smart couple and you will become a power couple. All right, that's it for episode 1. Much more to come. Very excited to have you here. We are going to get into the whole entire point of marriage next time in episode 2. Why bother? Why should you even care? Why is marriage so hard over the long term? And how do we really win? How do we get win-win going in our partnership? Okay, we're going to talk about that. All right, thanks. Leave a comment below. I'd love your feedback on what you want to hear about in future episodes. I am very open to let's get the list going and we'll tackle it. And we'll talk next time.